Yes, you're in the place to be. It's GI Joburg episode 284. We're talking playmotion, we're talking classic comic books, we're talking toys. It's going to be a jam-packed affair. My name is Stephen, and as always, I'm joined by Paul.
Yay! How's it, buddy?
Hey,
And
pal.
hey, Workforce.
And
Yeah, sweet.
Robbie.
Hey, it's me. It's old man Rob. Yeah.
And to talk about our most recent Red Glare Playmotion adventure, we have frequent guest and GI Joburg Playmotion collaborator, Troy Smith. Hello, Troy. Welcome to GI Joburg.
How long's this thing gonna take? I got people to see and things to do and things to blow up.
Falcon, come on, we're guests here. We need to be polite to these guys.
Classic. Not only is he a dab hand behind the camera, but he also has offered voices for Falcon and Crazy Legs, amongst others. So welcome to the show, Troy, my friend.
It's so been a week here. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Well, it's as if you're the unofficial fourth member of this podcast. We've had you on before to talk about this exact topic. Well, maybe not this exact topic. Red Glare being the latest entry in our saga. Though it has a rather storied history. When did we first start working together? Because that is essentially when this plot started to be discussed. I think it was about 2017.
Yeah, I think it was 2017, 2018. Definitely 3 years ago when we started posting. I kind of went back and saw when we started posting the videos, the original ones, but like we'd been working a year before that. It seemed like it took a long time to produce Clairvoyance.
Yeah, I mean, this marks a continuation of an old thread. And it kicked off with Clairvoyance, then it was By Dawn's Early Light, and then most recently, not really, Can You See, and now Red Glare. So, I mean, if you notice the trend we're setting in terms of the naming convention, you might be getting the hints, or a patriotic hint. And you could probably guess what the next one would be. Maybe. But I'm so grateful that we've been able to finally make an addition to this storyline because it has been asked for. This has been a kind of a requested thing. People have not forgotten about Falcon's struggle with the master of mind control. Not Mindbender. Crystal ball. Anyway, I'm delighted to talk about it at long last. I've been slaving away in the edits for a time. It's nice to have finally released it into the world. But this particular Playmotion has the most interesting attribute, and that being the fact that it is the first time the three GI Joburg boys were able to collaborate on a scene together.
Yeah, which was...
So I'm going to immediately kick this over to the boys. Paul, Rob, what was it like joining me on the crazy sand?
I don't know if I should go first. But...
Well, Rob's been along. I mean, while it was the first time the three of us were together, there's an earlier sequence in Red Glare where the Cobra troops all land their attack. And that was shot in 2019 with Rob and I. So that's been in the can for... That's been in the can for years, man.
But it meshes well. It hooks up well. So.
Yeah, and you made it so seamless. That was surprising to me because I remember you showing me that 2 years ago, and I was like, "Oh wow, you actually went out and shot stuff." I didn't know that you had shot some things, and then COVID kind of wrecked everything.
Gosh, yeah. But thankfully, it's all in the can now, and working with Stephen and Paul together was a fantastic experience.
And it's something I'm sorry we didn't get to do more of, but
circumstances. But now we know what it feels like, and it feels nice. It feels good. It feels right.
Does it now? Slave driver cracking the whip.
That's scary. We're going through changes.
Oh, give me another one.
Guys, I got a question for you guys then.
And
it relates to this experience.
Okay.
So 4 o'clock in the morning, there we are. I pop in to join the premiere, and then I see Rob popped up, and I was very impressed with that, Robbie. Just saying. And then I watch it, and then it abruptly ends, and my first like knee jerk was, oh, like, I like what's happening, what's coming next. I actually like waited, gave it a few seconds. I thought maybe there's something wrong with the stream. I was like, where's the rest? Now I watched it again. I've watched it again. Well, subsequently watched again with Celia on the same day. And my question to you guys is, what was the reaction of the people around you, like when they watched it, and what was their reaction to that specific
people? My scheduled time is my alone time.
Okay, so you didn't have anybody watching it with you. Kim didn't check it out with you, Steve.
Oh, Paul, no, buddy. What time was it for me? Oh, it was midday. I think Kim was at work, pal.
Oh, okay. You should have got her to take a lunch break and come over and watch it with you.
Kim was at work. Elliot was napping. Yeah, it was just me. Boo.
And Rob, I suppose this is your secret shame, so maybe you don't share it with anybody.
It was once again it was me. Although I did rep it on Instagram, so maybe someone that I know watched it, but it was definitely me alone in the dark in my room with no power watching Red Glare. It was a cool experience.
Nothing can stop Rob. But Paul, I wanted to address. I mean, it's interesting that we were talking about the end before we really address anything else. But the ending of Red Glare being abrupt is mainly a product of the fact that we were like, we shot enough. Let's clock off and have a beer and burgers.
Because who suggested that?
Because like Celia's reaction for that was so great, because she's like into it. Like I can see she's into it, because every time, she's watching it and we're watching it now and stuff. And then, there'd be like, I can't remember, there was like some kind of interruption and she'd be like, pause. And that would be, that's not normal. Cool. Like Celia normally won't go, oh, pause this. She'll just be like, keep watching. Oh, come check out now. And I'm like, but you're missing Jurassic Park. Kind of thing. So
GI Joburg has pipped Spielberg. Oh my goodness!
Right. So when it ended, she was like, "Oh, what now?"
Well, I mean,
now we went to Tiger's Milk and had beer and burgers. Like,
oh yeah. Well, looking at the comments, I mean, people were exceptionally in the comments that they were all this cliffhanger definitely did, like stop everyone. They were like, "What? We need more." Like I was just remembering Derek Lemire said did not see that cliffhanger coming. That final visual was quite a takeaway.
Because
that was after 17. Oh, sorry, Paul. That was after 17 minutes of pure action, and it's like to continue, it'd be another 17, 20 minutes or so.
Exactly right. Because here's to add more flesh to the story. My folks had, because of load shedding and power surges being what they are in South Africa now because of load shedding, their DSTV decoder was like knocked out by that. The best way I can think of to explain it to American viewers or listeners, should I say, is basically the cable box shorted out. So they got a new one. So I had to go over to their side to go and help my mom set it up. So naturally, one of the things that I wanted to set up, because my mom was like, "Can I watch YouTube and stuff on here as well?" I'm like, "Yeah, totally." And so the first thing I tested with to see if the internet connection in the house is strong is this new episode. So my folks were actually watching this as well.
Hey.
Yeah, it was very, very cool. But then unfortunately, load shedding kicked in, so they didn't get to finish it. But
so they had a cliffhanger within a cliffhanger.
Within a cliffhanger, yeah. But their reaction was also cool. Was also like, "And now what? Oh, it's load shedding."
They all lived happily ever after.
Well, anything can happen, really.
So this thing was quite pulse pounding. It was like, because we're very close to it. We're very close to how we're in the factory, right? So mind you, I purposely try to stay away from seeing the final cut before the premiere. That's just my thing. But sometimes you think that, okay, maybe this shot doesn't work, or this isn't going to work, or maybe we often talk about it.
How dare you?
Every shot Stephen takes.
No, man. Yeah, of course.
Every frame of painting.
Or two. But it's cool to see how it hits with people, because I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm so used to it that every time it hits with people, it's always a welcome and pleasant surprise, you know. And I like that. It's awesome. Yeah.
That's
But
why we
how's-
do these premieres. And I mean, this
Yeah.
one was particularly kind of, I suppose, staged premiere because we went live in the hour preceding the premiere in order to do a recap on Clairvoyance, Can You See, and Dawn's Early Lights, which makes for quite a compelling supercut. And
Yeah.
GI Joburg is only marginally responsible for those. Those are mainly Troy Smith Productions. So, Troy, it's a seamless integration from your style into ours. And thank you for putting together almost an hour's worth of entertainment.
Sorry. Such a cool scene.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And when you put them all together, I was like, wow, that's 56 minutes of stuff that we've done over the years. It's like it was a lot longer than I thought. But yeah, it's 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. Next
And what's
thing you know,
so
you've got
nice
a
about it
full
is
hour.
you did little commercial featurettes which feature Crystal Ball basically getting into Falcon's head. Like he keeps seeing him anytime he turns on the television almost. So these infomercials, these kind of Better Call Ball legal advice or Just for Joe's, hair dye and sort of housing investment tips infomercial. Like these things made for great interspersals between the 2 or 3 play motions. So in every gap there was a little bit of ball.
Made it quite meta.
Yeah.
Made it quite meta.
Yeah.
I would say.
Falcon's really scarred, and I guess I'm scarred too, because I just keep seeing Crystal Ball everywhere. So creepy.
Guys, I don't even want to. Falcon is scarred. Well, I feel like that's a conversation that's going to come up in this episode.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Thank you, Buttface.
Buttface69 says Troy's work on the play motions were like a Kojima fever dream. I loved it so much. Seems you got a fan, Troy.
That's great.
Yeah.
I agree with that, and I remember a lot of the conversations that we had about clairvoyance and where it could go and how it could go and crazy stuff. And yeah, it's just the final product came together so well. And
it's still in product. I mean, it's in production. I mean, this is what I like to consider the A plot of GI Joburg play motions. We might do special missions on the side. I happen to be working on one as we speak. Well, not quite as we speak, but yeah, it's concurrent with this.
He's filming right now.
No, this stuff's all in the can, actually. I'm chewing through footage shot back in my Cape Town holiday. So expect to see some beautiful South African scenery well into this year. But besides that, yeah, Red Glare and the sort of the GI Joburg space program, I'd like to say, is kind of our A plot. Everything else branches out from it. So, Troy, I thank you once again for even suggesting that we cap off Can You See in Dawn's Early Lights, because this wasn't on the cards for me. Like if we dial back to, I think it was October of last year when we were debating what our next play motion should be, this hadn't occurred to me as an option, and you planted the seed, and that seed has taken hold, man.
Yeah, we were coming up with tons of new ideas. But yeah, Troy.
Yeah, and I was just like, come on, guys, we have Clairvoyance and Red Glare to finish up. And I kind of threw it out there as a joke, and I didn't think that you would go with it because you had some really good ideas to go with also. And then I knew that you already had like the one scene of after the helicopters coming in and Falcon's driving away in the All-Striker on the first attack when they start coming through. I knew you had that scene, but like to put the rest of it together, I know it was shot in South Africa, you're in Australia, and it's like, oh, all the toys are not with you. So I was like, oh, that's not going to happen. But I still pushed for it anyway, and hey, everything aligned and it worked out.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm glad. I mean, we have ideas. We can do them whenever we want, but I think it's cool that we actually continued something that hadn't been finished. So,
in many respects, it was the path of least resistance because Red Glare actually had a finished script that we'd already started shooting on, albeit something that I had to really dig through my Google Docs to find because it was, as I say, 3 years old to that point. But it was there, it was ready to go, and it was really just a case of, as my cohort George Lucas would say, just gathering the raw
Your cohort.
gathering the raw material. The movie really takes shape in the edit bay. So yeah, I enlisted my two boys, my Paul and my Rob, and off we went. Tell me about. Well, we've spoken about that day, but it was kind of a late afternoon almost. We were really up against a hard deadline in terms of the light. But off we went to the beach. It was the first time we'd been together after a number of days tumbled by without having any opportunity to shoot anything. But I kind of never wanted to lean too heavily onto making Paul's visit like a work visit. If we shot stuff, it had to be organic to what we were doing. And I think we succeeded in that. It never felt terribly forced.
I agree.
So the fact that last action sequence is a bit loose, was certainly looser than I would do it if shooting alone, because you wouldn't even see me in the frame. It was jubilant.
Well, I mean, you got to see all of us and Cecilia too.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep, she's famous, man.
She totally got into it. Like, she was really
There it is.
I love that.
The Sky Storm. I loved it.
Yep.
I was telling Steven, is like, look, her lips are puckering. She's making sound effects. She is all in, and I love it. Love it.
Absolutely is.
Right?
In spite of the fact that she's got a little Hitler director lying on his back, sort of beneath her, saying, "Yeah, get a bit closer. Just a bit closer. Stoop down.
Closer.
Go lower. Pass the camera closer. Get tight.
If you're gonna be in the shot, you might as well fly something.
Bank. No, bank means turn. What are you doing?
Stuff, it means right.
But yeah, Cecilia acquitted herself very well. And not only was she on camera flying the Sky Storm, but I think in one or two background shots, like the really wide ones, she's like
just chilling.
She's sitting on her towel. Yeah. It's a very warts and all sequence, but I think that's on brand, honestly. For the guys who never shy away from putting their hands in the shot, why don't we put our girlfriends in the shot as well? Hey.
Exactly.
It could only sweeten the visuals, eh?
Yeah, but it's also cool for, like, future us, when we're like 70, and we watch these again. It's cool,
Yeah.
We'd be like, that's how handsome I was. Whoa.
I could walk. That's me before robot legs.
All right. Troy, you shot me a lovely little sort of hit list rap sheet on talking points that you wanted to bring up. I don't know. I mean, I'm quite happy with the more organic approach, but if there's anything burning that you'd like to address, now's the time, man. Please feel free to take control of this chat.
They're certainly coming up as we go along. I'm seeing them too.
Yeah, they're coming through. So I guess also, speaking of the organic shooting, and you're right, the helicopter battle scene was all very organic, and I picked up a few shooting tricks. It's like, I see, okay, helicopter in one hand, camera in the other, and everybody's moving around, and you got your still camera. It's like running around. It's like, it'll make sense in the edit bay. And it does. It works.
You get to that point in the day when it's just like, okay, honestly, we could script this move for move and make it all make logical sense in camera, or we could just have a dogfight as we would as kids with all that sort of chaotic action, and then, as I say, try and make sense of it in the edit and make sense of it with the voiceover. Troy, you did a lot of heavy lifting there as Windmill's voice, just with lines of like, "Oh, where are these guys? They're all over me." Like, "Oh, I didn't know they could do that."
I'm hit. I'm going down.
Going down again.
To my shock and horror, realized that it wasn't something that we'd not shot. Or it wasn't something that disappeared because of technical gremlins. I realized we didn't have a single shot of the Sky Storm actually crashing out. So Troy, your voiceover is basically the only thing informing the audience that the Sky Storm is out of commission.
Are you sure? Because I thought
killed it off camera.
A scene where it did go off screen.
Well,
whatever.
I think I just used Yeah, there was a sort of an outtake of it being like lowered or past the camera, and I just isolated that and was like, oh, okay.
I'm thinking. I was looking at the Sky Storm last night again, and I was looking at like it has all the little Cobra emblems printed on the side of it. You know, thinking like those are the ones that Windmill shot down, but like Windmill is a pilot in our playmotions. He's 2 for 2. He shot down twice, so maybe that's him getting knocked down or how many planes he's wrecked. Like, this is my second Sky Storm.
I've gone down again.
Yeah,
he jinxed himself by wearing like a high visibility flight suit. It's just like he's born to crash. He's born for search and rescue. Like,
I'm going
guys,
down.
I'm over
Come
here.
find me, guys. Yeah, come get me. Yeah.
So, which brings me to the voices, actually, which is, and I'm sorry if I sound like I'm jumping ahead here, but one of my favorite things in this episode in particular was the voice work. I loved everybody just came together so nicely, and it's always like, sorry to bring myself into this now, but it's always a shining moment for me if I do a voice and Celia, for example, doesn't. Celia and my parents don't pick up. It's me. I love that.
Oh.
Yeah, so like, because I really do revel in that sort of anonymity for it, and it was great. I mean, I'm sure you guys can pick it up, obviously, but that was a cool thing, and that made me very happy. And then also Rob's voice. Rob, I didn't pick up. It was you for a second on the one character, and I was like,
what on Flint?
Sneak peek?
No,
I mean sneak peek is pretty straightforward. I mean that's just me talking.
Yeah, that's very Rob.
A bit lower.
But you're Flint. I kept. I'm sorry. I almost thought you were. I almost said Hawk, but yes, you're Flint. I didn't realize that was you. I was like,
well, Stephen was like, he was like, I'm doing all the guys in charge, and I don't want them all to sound exactly the same. So can you like step in and do this? And I was like, yeah, for sure I can. I'm Flint.
Rob, you've always had a much bigger Flint boner than I have.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, it's made a lot more sense. You had Eco Warriors Flint growing up, and then when we were young teens, you had Atomic Stomp Flint.
Yeah,
the new Sculpt Era one. And so yeah, Flint has been your guy far more than he's ever been mine.
For sure.
So it was a nice return to those old days. I'd like to credit our only female voice. She played double duty as Baroness and Scarlet, and her name is Melissa, and an old friend of mine and work colleague from back in the day when we used to tread the boards. However, I recorded her after she'd found out she was pregnant. And so getting a take that didn't devolve into like crazed giggles was a challenge. I think at one point you can hear like a car screeching in the background, because literally that is the only way I could have gotten that line. There was no other cleaner take. But yeah, it was good fun. Yeah.
Wait, that was Melissa. I thought that was Paul. I thought that was Paul doing those voices.
yeah.
Just really disguising.
I pitch shifted him up a few. What do they call them? Tones.
Yeah, I really had to grab my nuts on that one. And Steve, that's and then it gives us the opportunity to then point spotlight at you. And I know that you carried a lot of the voices, but yeah, dude, the diversity in your voice there is also really fantastic. Especially like the Stratoviper. I want to say, yeah, it is a Stratoviper. I like that a little bit. That was very cool.
No, Stratoviper is actually Buttface 69, our resident.
No, not in the jet.
Jock.
Is it? Then when Baroness is turning to the comms, then who does she speak to? Why do I keep thinking that's a Stratoviper?
Okay, yes, that was a Stratoviper. Fine, Paul, you got me. That was me.
I thought I was going crazy. Sorry. Like,
but this is a really good impression of Stephen doing an impression of Stratoviper.
Dude, Buttface was great on that. Candy, I love that shit, man. That was so good.
It's good. He knows exactly what to say, and it's all very authentic. I mean, it better be.
If you know a military aviator and you have like radio babble, you'd be dumb not to use him. So yeah,
exactly.
He was an absolute shoo-in. Thank you very much, Buttface 69.
I enjoyed the conversation that Rob and I had with Falcon and Sneak Peek, and kind of listening to it and watching it again. It's just like Falcon's just trying to be very chatty, and Sneak Peek's like, yes, no, Straight answers, not elaborating much on anything. And it's like, oh, that fits his character. The guy who's out all alone looking through a little peephole. He doesn't want to be talking.
There's nothing to talk about it. He's just like, I'm all about business. Don't think my mom and pa would like me in the sky. Want my feet down on the ground.
No, like, I call that version of Rob, that's Rob in a plane. Because when you're staying in an aeroplane and random people like speak to Rob, he's like, yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm looking through people.
At Scarlet changing. Shut up, Falcon. I got places to be. I got periscopes to look through.
I'll just forever have that moment in my head from being on the plane with our overhead luggage and Rob like sort of being half passed out in that aisle seat, and that family trying to sneak their bag into our overhead, and Rob's like, no. I'll forever have that stuck in my head. It's just the way it's like, no. It's like she's like, no, and she like kind of stops and like slowly brings her bag back and then looks for somewhere else to put it.
For context, we had a bag full of GI Joe parts and toys smuggled into that plane, so it was a very precarious arrangement. We didn't want anyone crushing them.
Yeah, we're not an unfriendly bunch of assholes. It's just the toys. We can be the toys.
Well, somebody
speaking
think
of that conversation. The children. Speaking of that conversation, Stephen, how did you get that low angle shot or sneak peek looking at the stars?
Well,
do tell.
Gotta credit fellow Berg Force member MCDJ ACDC, who in our international backyard video, Seconds to Midnight, used rear projection basically. Like he put up an image of the Earth from space on his flat screen, put the Defiant or the Cobra controlled Defiant in front of that, and just shot up against it, and it looked pretty convincing. It's similar to what they do in Star Wars productions nowadays when they shoot inside the volume, which is just basically a giant projected environment, like LED screens. Yeah, TV screens basically. So that Starfield is literally just up on the TV.
It's really smart though.
Beautiful. Capturing stars, I mean, anyone who's tried to film stars would know this. Like, setting your exposure to actually pick up these little pinpricks of light means that anything in the foreground is overexposed completely. So your subjects would be just white hot. So having a having an LED screen showing you the stars, which actually give off a more immediate light source, is a way of capturing both that and the subject in camera at the same time without overexposing them. I don't know cameras much, but that much I do know.
I kind of thought that's what you did.
Yeah.
Did you have to do any adjustments on your TV screen? Did you do anything? Because like sometimes when you shoot TVs, they look very blue.
I think I just
tube TVs, maybe.
darkened. Yeah, no, I think like the LEDs are pretty good nowadays. I mean, they're getting insanely good. This is an older TV. This is something I bought for my parents like probably a decade ago. So yeah, it looked pretty jazzy, as I say, and gives that atmosphere that yes, we are beneath a star field, and they're talking about GI Joe's space program and its future, and whether or not Sneak Peek wants to be a part of it. And Falcon's like, come on, man, let's go to the stars. Let's be all we can be. It needed that as a third character in the room or in the scene, the stars. And of course that segues nicely to the fact that up in the sky, beneath those same stars, beneath those same stars is some very hostile forces. Cobra Night Raven cutting through the night sky.
It's so weird for me. Yeah, sorry, you love?
Yeah, I love the backpack, Baroness's backpack, just on the bottom of the Night Raven. So cool.
In hindsight, I should have maybe carved up a marble or something, because Baroness's backpack doesn't look like an optic. I mean, it looks very snake themed, but to use it as the shutter for a spy camera, it's just a pity that the Night Raven itself doesn't have any kind of molding detail that could be like an electronics package or camera.
Well, it's sold with the sound effects.
Yeah, I suppose. Old school shutters.
Right.
We're still playing this in the 1980s. They're not shooting digital.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean,
It works.
the spy cams on the SR-71 were almost as advanced as the plane was for their time as well. So that's something that doesn't get spoken about a lot. Is the actual cameras used on that plane for taking, footage.
And where were they housed? Was there just like a glass panel on the underside somehow, like really
No,
old?
it's somewhere obscure. I remember it's actually it. If I'm not mistaken, and I bring this up, and I'm like trying to remember, but it's actually something that it opens up at the bottom. It's actually a
What?
metal plate that's closed, and then when I say metal plate, it's an SR-71. One of the plates or something opens, and the camera is exposed, and then the camera shows off, and then it closes. It's like a whole
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
I suppose you don't want to have a weak point like that exposed to friction of extreme speeds.
It's something like that, if I can remember correctly. I could be getting it confused with another plane now, but I remember it being something like that.
I hope this
don't have my
discussion is a
books with me.
springboard to you thirsty for knowledge types out there to now do your research on the camera technology of the
Yes,
SR-71.
tell us.
Hit us in the comments below.
We know you
okay.
will.
Look, it was late. I always had very finite time in the evenings to kind of cram these pickups, so I just reached for the nearest camera-ish looking thing, and that was Baroness's backpack. It finally has some practical use. Rob has some information here for us. The optical bar camera, or OBC, which is actually in the nose of the SR-71.
It's essentially what
There we
it's
go.
all described.
You had it in the right spot.
Yay!
Yay.
Steven, how did you know? These are top secret American secrets.
Well, now I should have just
They're
gotten
older
a
than we
piece
are.
of like, I don't know,
Glass.
cardboard or like
You could have like painted it
opaque
blue or
stuff
something.
and just put it in the nose of the Raven. So what Rob's shown us is, there is a glass panel in the sort of the curvature of the SR-71's nose cone that kind of angles a little bit forward, but mainly down. And inside is the sophisticated camera. So does that glass panel, does it have a metal or ceramic covering that slides forward and backwards?
As far as I can tell, it's basically it's always see-through.
Okay.
I would say it probably is no need to cover it up if it has the thick glass.
Yeah.
Probably.
And how the camera works is it's basically just panning left and right all the time. It's automatically moving back and forth. It's basically the pilot turns it on or turns it off. It does its thing. And then you get
Just
these
like that.
crazy big photos. Which each photograph is apparently 2 nautical miles along ground track by 36 nautical miles to each side of ground track. So each picture takes a huge.
It's shooting stills.
Yes.
Or is it shooting video? Okay.
Photographs.
Amazing.
I mean, at the speed they're going at, I don't. You could never do film. I don't think.
True. You'd have to have a very quick shutter, but at the same time, it would have to be shooting by day. I don't know. Once again, this is out of my wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
you
interesting
need a lot
little
of light.
sidetrack it went on.
Gaz says the SR-71 also carried an optical bar. Oh, he has come through as
there we
well.
go.
The same information. The optical
People are
bar
quick.
camera mounted to the nose that took a picture 72 miles wide, which in 1 hour's time covered 100,000 square miles. Wow. Okay.
Wow, that's pretty wide.
Sometimes you underestimate exactly how powerful these aircraft optics were. Like, you send an SR-71 up, you're going to have a lot of intel gathered over that entire area. Amazing. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Rob. Good boys.
Hell yeah.
Cool.
Speaking of the Night Raven and SR-71, who came up with the cool use of the hidden gun in that fight?
Yeah, very cool.
Rob's he's
I
tooting
love
his
patting
own
myself
horn
on the
there. Well,
Okay.
talk about your motivation there, Rob. So we went up to our favorite little hillside, Signal Hill in Cape Town, if you know it, and we were shooting the F-18s and their unfortunate demise at the hands of a very sneaky Raven pilot. And we were like, should they get shot down by missiles? Nah, but it'd be nice if we get both planes in the frame somehow. But like,
Yeah.
how do you do
And
that?
we'd
'Cause
used missiles so much already
Mm.
in the this video. So I was like, let's just use the gun. I mean, it's so brazen. It feels
But
like something
how,
that a
Rob?
Stratoviper
How can we
would
use the
do
gun?
it. Well, you just
How?
sneak right up there because they can't even
Oh.
see them anyway.
And
Because
then that
of,
satisfies my need to have both planes in the same frame.
exactly.
Oh,
They just
yeah.
he blows him up. He slides away and he just laughs. He's like, Cobra owns the skies.
So yes, I mean, it strains believability, of course, because
Oh,
like
absolutely. But I mean, you
modern
at least we
aircraft
used
combat
it.
happening over many nautical miles, like to have them right up close to one another, get you into like cartoon terrain.
But which is nice. I mean, yes, we kind of have it's a nice juxtaposition between the kind of our comic book realism versus I mean, it's nice to add more of the kind of the cartoon funness of just like what can these things do, It can do that. It has the gun. Let's just use it.
I'm absolutely in favor with that. I mean, obviously, because like I didn't say no, Rob, on the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think my sensibilities are tending more towards the cartoon these days.
Hell yeah.
It's a rabbit hole that I'm not prepared to go down with my plastic action figures. Being ultra realistic. Like I leave that in the hands of the burgeoning number of classified playmotions out there. Most recently, Rob the Hunter, and also our buddy Datalink's Magnus. These are the guys carrying the torch for like the 6-inch scale and exactly the kind of realism you can get from those guys. Me, I'm all about like, I don't know, just inviting the more toyetic play
Hell yeah,
into these
Facto
games.
Monku.
Well, the way I look at it is, if Top Gun can have two Tomcats flying upside down, very close together, enough for Tom Cruise to flip off the other guy with the Pepsi can coming out of the cockpit, it's an easy stretch to sneak underneath a plane, launch a little gun, and boop, boop, boop. It's perfect. It's like, what else is that gun used for? It's perfect.
Exactly.
It's the equivalent. It's the equivalent of like a street brawl where you headbutt the other guy. It's like you're getting so close that you're gonna potentially hurt yourself quite badly, but you just want the ultimate FU of like, I'm gonna shoot you from your underside with my dumb rear-facing gun.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing more absurd is if they rolled down the window and shot a handgun. I mean, that'd be
tossed in a hand grenade. Here you go in the intake. Boom. Hilarious, but very toyetic and very cartoon influenced, I suppose, which makes for a great segue to the way this thing ended. It was not a suggestion of mine to attach the Mamba pods to the MCC and have Cobra drag it off that way. This was the brainchild of Mr. Smith. Troy, my boy, always bringing the more toon sensibilities, and I thank you for it, because what an unseen little plot twist, and it garnered more than one comment of like, I've never thought to use the Mamba pods like that.
Well, thank you. I mean, they just look like jet rockets, and I was like, it'd be cool if they had like magnetics just to stick to the MCC and just kind of lift it up, because how else are you going to steal something that big? You got to lift it. And I think I've seen it in a cartoon. I mean, it's the equivalent of Cobra going in with a gigantic net and capturing something and lifting it away. It's like
Pyramid of Darkness, where
they
stop the GI Joe shuttle by putting a net over the top, and like they have this like reaction control thruster attached to the side, so they're dragging it with his tanks rolling alongside, holding onto the net. I mean, that defies all belief. I mean, that's just for fun. Ours is slightly less extraneous, but yeah, man, it was a cool idea, and it saved us from having a very convoluted conclusion. Because at one point we were like, okay, Cobra's going to basically dismantle the section of the MCC that they need, and then put that into a transport chopper. Like, to have a sequence with like techno vipers and cutting torches would have just dragged out the proceedings. Whereas just having the Mamba pods detach and then magnetically attach to the sides of the MCC and then launch it, perfect. Chef's kiss, sir. Thank you.
Oh, well,
Indeed.
thank you. I'm surprised you went with it too, because when we had the conversation, you're like, no, it's not believable. You're like doing calculations in your head, like how much power and thrust do we need to lift? How heavy is the MCC? This is
Just
so
do it.
unbelievable. Yeah. I was like,
And
you don't
it's
have
one
to
of
worry
the
about it.
it's the most memorable thing. I mean, one of the most memorable things from the episode. Like literally every other comment, people are like, they can't believe we did this. It's absolutely amazing. It's unexpected. Yeah, it's
Well,
definitely
Troy, of
like
course you're going to win that argument
brilliant.
because I wanted to knock off and have a lager. So I was like, how do I wrap this up quickly? Oh yeah, let's do Troy's
Yeah.
idea.
Let's do it.
Good thing
Very
you had
Indiana
4.
Jones of you.
Yeah, if you only had 2, it wouldn't be enough. But since you had 4, it made perfect sense.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Because that
You know,
it's easy enough. Yeah.
yeah. The other thing about the Mamba helicopter, I don't know, Stephen, if you told that story publicly, it's like how the one time that you went out that they thought the Mamba pilots were drones or copters were drones and they wouldn't let you enter.
We had a whole
Was that
bunch
the
of
same?
helicopters that day. It was the Mambas. We had the Chapmay sort of Chinook-ish helicopter. And yeah, we were in a nature reserve, which is where we shot Blazing Sand all those years ago. Anyway,
Okay.
so Rob and I were there, and they denied us access. They were like, "You can't fly drones in here." We were like, "These aren't drones; they're plastic
They're just
toys."
toys.
And they actually called in the supervisor, who was off-site. Like he drove in. Like we sat there and waited.
Oh god,
Pissed,
like 20
pissed away. I
minutes.
think an hour. No, it's closer to an hour.
More than that. Jesus.
Yeah. Waiting
Wow.
for this guy to arrive. I'm thinking,
Crazy.
well, we don't have much time anyway. So that put a cramp on things from the beginning. And then I think it got so hot there that we were like, no, we can't continue. Because, I mean, Rob and I had the full shooting script for the entire battle.
Yeah.
We had the MCC packed in the back of the car. We were going to ferry things to and fro that location as and when we needed it. We had those big foam structures which we used as the entrance to the pit, and we just couldn't make our day, man. We did the sequence that we did shoot wound up being the assault, like as the Cobras are landing. So everything from Falcon picking up a sneak peek to then the Cobras surrounding the lift structure, that was all shot on that day. But we had high hopes that we'd shoot, as I say, everything else.
Just get it all done. But yeah, like thankfully the manager did arrive. He said, "Yeah, guys, these are obviously toys. I obviously, you guys are stupid. So let them in."
That must have been a fun day.
So that was a big down, and like I think halfway through us shooting that sequence, Steven's phone died because it was so hot.
Oh god,
I think we managed to get a few shots with mine. But yeah, thankfully we did get some stuff done that day. But it was a difficult day, but a good story afterwards.
That elevator lift setup was pretty sweet. I mean, the technical battle platform to be the structure, and have the way you raised it up, and that's pretty clever.
A little bit of trick photography and force perspective. Yeah. Well, I think that polystyrene gray structure that I had painted up, it fits the 1983 HQ lift quite perfectly. So just using the 11 legs of the transportable tactical battle platform. Like, guys, I am not a dio maker by any stretch. So if I can repurpose parts, that's the way to go.
it looks
and
great
if they're
on
Joe
camera.
parts, nice, thanks. And look, it just gives you, I suppose, an added dimension to use these parts. Like it blew my mind when I saw a custom entry at JoeCon when we went, just using one of the transportable tactical battle platform legs as a vending machine. Like cut a screen out in the leg and put it was from Big, the Tom Hanks film. Ask whatever it is, the fortune teller vending machine thing.
Oh, yes, when he wants to be a kid again.
Exactly. Yeah. So these parts have endless reuse potential. If you've got like stuff sitting in a drawer or in a cupboard somewhere, like, and it doesn't need, it's just a spare, there are ways of integrating that into your collection today. Just got to be creative, I guess.
Yeah.
So thanks, Troy.
And you're welcome. And I noticed that on the side of that styrofoam, you put like a very thin slither of like part of the headquarters. that makes like the corner door going into the tank portion, I believe. You know, just adding that little plastic piece makes a nice little little, I don't know, added detail that just sells it. And if I look very close, and if I look very closely, did you use the bottom side of the flag to put the Defiant on? Is that what that's sitting on?
That whole sequence was shot just in my childhood room's cupboard. And so the flooring was like a mix of carpet and wood. And I just wanted to mask that as best I could. So yes, absolutely. It's an overturned flag deck plate.
Yeah, works.
Just to give it some kind of, I suppose, technical look to it. Like it's a hard interior decking, floor painting of some kind. But yeah.
So I was saying
use what you got.
Yeah, absolutely. This episode has like, it's unique that it has all the major plot or like sets. It has the flag, it has the Defiant, it has the mobile command center, and now we have to say it's like, you know, since you used the lift, it has the original GI Joe base, so it's got 4 major play sets and the technical battle platform 5. So well done. You're using all the toys, all the big toys.
It just didn't use the Terradrome, sadly. I could have. I mean, I used a Storia's base, that big snake head brown thing. I mean, it's not that big,
that was
actually.
Pretty cool.
And you use some forced perspective to get that low angle. Though in hindsight, I wish I'd shot that against a star field using that rear projection technique, because that would have sold the scale even better instead of just taking it into the garden.
You know,
but hey, cool. You live and learn.
It feels like that's like Baroness's hideout. Like that's her little area. And like you guys gave her own attack force, which was pretty cool. So it's kind of cool. Like Cobra has all little teeny factions. So I guess Baroness has her little faction of
Athena God.
Yes, that was pretty cool.
I'm just calling it that. No, there's lots of clever little tricks. I gotta say that rear screen projection thing, I didn't notice. Like only now when like Rob mentioned something about it, did I give it some thought and go, oh yeah.
Paul, you're such a dear. You've tried shooting at night. You know how. I mean, you tried shooting under a full moon. You just don't have enough lights at all.
You just can't. You have to bring your own lights. But that's what I thought that maybe you did. I thought maybe you went outside. I mean, this is, I thought maybe you went outside and just put like a heavy light on the craft itself. And then for some reason, your phone just, transcended, the physical boundaries of, optical technology and just was able to shoot at the correct exposure. I don't know. My mind is a funny place. Then again, I have seen one of those Huawei phones that somebody
shoot the moon.
My God, it's crazy, But anyway,
in your phone. But yeah,
dude,
I think it's cool that our version of GI Joe does have Baroness with her own force, and that's something we can expand on in the future, which I think is quite nice.
So they've been decimated by the MCC.
Yeah, for sure, but she'll get more people. She'll be fine.
Yeah, everybody wants to die for the Baroness,
and she succeeded. I mean, she stole the MCC. So I mean, Cobra Commander will definitely give her more troops.
Wow, actually, I didn't even. I'm only thinking about this now, and I'm like, wow, that's like a serious win. Go us, hey? Like, how subtle did we take a female character? And
hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, like nice, Steve, nice, Troy, very well done on that one.
We're very progressive on GI Joburg.
I guess my only regret then is that she wasn't personally involved in the action. But that was mainly a faux pas of like
shit to do, man.
Yeah, I suppose. It just would have been a nice capping. Like she's there at the beginning of the episode kind of pushing for this mission. The commander greenlights it and says, "Oh, use your own troops, thanks." It would be nice if she was there right at the end, like riding the MCC into the sunset with a nice big Baroness laugh.
Well, that's going to be a great starting scene for the next episode.
Yep, absolutely. I'm thinking Star Wars.
She's going to come down with it. She's going to be laughing. She'll jump down. She'll be like, "Look, Cobra Commander, I did what you thought was impossible."
Well, then casting our mind forward, gents, to cap off this chat, where do you see this series going? I'm not going to tip my hand because I obviously have some inside information. But Paul, Rob, Troy, spitball, man. What happens?
I don't want to. I'm scared of extrapolating and going deep into that right now because I'm worried about spoilers and all kinds of
Don't
stuff.
worry, your suggestions will be shot down.
Of course they will.
Whatever we say,
I-
Stephen, we'll just do something else.
I do know that there is a very interesting match shot in my future. And having watched the episode and seeing how that all went down, I'm like, I've got to do that match shot.
Yeah,
And
Mr. Background Artist, come on.
yeah, I
Use some
want
of
to
your
do that.
professional
Like,
skills.
I want to nail
Nice.
that. And I think, and I'm so glad you mentioned that that you kind of lean into the cartoon. And I always feel that the playmotions also kind of lean into the cartoon a bit, which means I can get a little bit tuned with what I want to do with that, a little bit painterly. I don't have to try and be realistic per se. So I'm very excited about that shot, because everybody's seen the MCC has been taken, but they don't know where it's going, or what it's going to go into. And I think I kind of want to leave it at that, because that I know is something that we've kind of discussed and gives us warm fuzzies inside. So that's maybe not a spoiler I want to put out now. Anyway, Rob, what do you think's going to happen?
It's on the record, dude. It's on the record.
I hope we go to space. I'm very interested to film more in the volume, as it were. I think that could be quite cool. I really want to
the
have like
volume.
the Defiant featured in our episodes, in our stories, and it's a nice tease of it in this episode. You kind of have to take it out now. It's like the smoking gun. You see the gun early in the movie, and they try and someone shoots it later on. So hell yeah, I want to go to space.
Don't we all, Rob?
I think Falcon may have something to say to Baroness and to see if she really did succeed, because yes, she has an MCC, but is there any fluorescein on it?
Oh, the miracle fuel.
Yeah.
And does Baroness
Yeah, I thought
have
he
a
was-
comeback for that?
Yeah.
Here I'm thinking he was going to go, do you like my wang? But okay, I like where he's going with that.
Oh, an illicit romance between Falcon and Baroness. This could get very
He's
interesting.
banging all the Cobra babes.
Is he now? Taking hits of spark on the side.
Yeah,
Come here, Baroness.
I could just see Falcon inviting Baroness to go work out with him to the gym, and when she doesn't show up, he's like, "Oh, I knew it wouldn't work out."
Oh God!
All right, I see the ending happening one of two ways. Okay, so here's how the ending is going to be. So spoilers, everything, it's all here. Well, I guess we can let everybody decide. Number one, everyone's going to die. Number two, they all live happily ever after.
That's a good
Here's the
option.
BF2K. It is the BF2K on board that MCC.
Oh,
They have a precedent for dying.
But how likable are the
They're really good at
BB2K in this episode?
You like them?
Yeah,
They don't
I
have
thought
much
they
to
were
do.
Great. No, but I thought the dynamic of like how everyone has like a different character, like how their different characters come across, and how they, you got the attitude, you got the sort of heroic kind of, hey, we gotta go kind of guy. I love that. That was such a great dynamic, and knowing that they may die makes me quite sad, because I quite liked them just from that one scene. It gave them a lot. It gave them a lot more character than I thought we would give them, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, they
went
all
off
jumped on the suicide mission.
Yeah, basically.
Sorry.
They're absolutely living up to their the alternate timelines history of themselves. Look, I base their characters mainly on the figure's appearance, which is unusual for me because normally I go into the file cards. But with guys as kind of almost throwaway as the BF2K, the file cards are
I like skeet
perfunctory.
shooting.
Yeah, well, the guy who looks like the biggest nerd is the guy with the monocular, the guy who has knockdown, who has the helmet that has all the sort of greeblies on it and the one eye covered. So he's the one who's like, wow, the science guy. And the biggest kind of like tough guy is the guy with his arms exposed, i.e. Dodger. He's the beefcake, he's the brawn. Avalanche and Blaster are kind of pals but antagonistic to one
Yeah.
another. Blast is like gung-ho about everything, and Avalanche is like, you idiot. Like, cool your jets, boy.
Avalanche's foul card is pretty interesting because he's a survival specialist, so he'd be like with Outback, and then they did a competition and they found him like a month later, and he was like staying at a hotel, and he's from a family of poachers, and he's like killed a bunch of furs and was living off of it for a month, and they finally found
he's a
him.
criminal.
Something, yeah,
Avalanche is a
something like
criminal,
that.
straight up.
Yeah.
Man.
So I know Joe on Joe is doing You on Joe podcast, and he just recently had somebody on, I think Matt Plasman, and they were talking about Battle Force 2000. So it's very fitting. So they do have a fan. They have multiple fans. So maybe we should flesh those characters out a little more.
Spend a bit more time with them. Yeah, sure. Before their summary execution. Gents, let's put a pin in this chat and flip over to some comic books, because yes, we are doing a reread of the entire ARAH run from issue 1 to issue 300 on
from
episodes
issue
of GI Joburg.
300 to issue 1.
Yeah, exactly. If you can't remember, because it has been a while ago, we've decided to tackle it in 2 directions. Yeah, from issue 1 up and issue 300 down, which means that
Why not?
This being our second session, we are going to talk about issue number 2, Panic in the North Pole, and issue number 299, which is part 4 of All In. Guys, as always, I think it's best to take our medicine before we get our dessert.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit
issue
about
2 then.
Oh dear, do you have some damning opinions on the second outing of the GI Joe team?
So guys, quickly before we get into all of that, just a little bit of like emergency housekeeping. We've had extended load shedding. Okay, we've been off from 7 when we were supposed to only be off from 10. So my inverter is going to see its ass in the next like 10-15 minutes. So I definitely want to jump in on my summary for issue 299 before I.
Well, that's why we're going to start with it, pal.
Yeah.
Hell
Cool,
yeah.
man. Sweet.
What happens in issue 299?
Okay. Serpentor Khan has officially taken over Cobra and usurped the throne, tossing Cobra Commander into a cell instead of killing him, which we all know he should do. Mindbender reveals that he has cloned the original Snake Eyes, a procedure which clearly demands that the Snake Eyes homunculus is fully clothed and tacked up in a tube filled with some green goo. Mindbender also has a zombie-making bomb. Cobra and Dawn plan their escape. Lots of gunfights, none with any consequence except for Wade getting shot, but we don't care because who is Wade anyway? Snake Eyes, Sean Eyes, kills like 30 Cobra Vipers because he and Laura are too stupid to pathfind correctly. And will Mindbender's Snake Eyes clone be successful? Will Dawn and Cobra Commander escape the facility? What is going to happen with Cobra's giant red suppository of doom? Who cares? It's mostly cuck, but thankfully it's drawn really well, or I wouldn't have gotten past the first 2 pages. So that would be issue 299.
Oh,
Wow.
my word. I'm going to start with our guest because he's being thrown in with zero context. Troy, did you read these issues as they were coming out?
did.
You did?
I did.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and I just really hope I don't lose my GI Joe cards when I say like, who are these people? Because I didn't recognize. I had no idea who Laura was. I know Snake Eyes passed. It was gone, but he's back. But it was good to see it, and I was like, these. Because I've heard people talk about all these episodes, and I kind of know just through osmosis what's been going on in the storyline. But I really enjoyed it, actually. Paul's right; the art is pretty good, and you know, it's the classic GI Joe that I like. You know, Scarlet still is in her normal uniform. There's a few new characters. Plot wise, I thought it was kind of weird that Wade was there, and so Wade. Sean is his son, but Sean is Snake Eyes, correct?
And I'm so confused.
Apparently,
and he's gonna leave it, and he's gonna leave his dad there. I'm hit, and he just walks away, and like he's like, "I left you once before. I'm not gonna leave you again." He's like, "Go on." He's like, "Okay, see ya." It's like
start a new life with a one-eyed Cobra God, Crimson God.
Yeah, that was a little weird for me, but I was just, you know, and this one also calls back. You know, I like the part where it calls back to Snake Eyes memories with Scarlet, and the way they did that scene looks like the classic comic book
Yes, I
drawing.
think they actually got
That's pretty
the
cool.
original artist to do that.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
still like, I mean, it's the same artist.
Rod Wiggum, I think, it was
Rod
from
Wiggum, yeah.
issue. What it was called? All Ships at Sea. Was it issue 36? I think so.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, man. I think it's not that they didn't redraw it. That was just a scan of the previous panel.
Interesting.
It
What's
is
cool to
also
see
kind
some
of
of the vehicles though. Sorry.
Yeah, it's also kind of like the way things are. They still stay the same. You still got Cutter and still got Shipwreck, and they're still on the Whale looks pretty cool, and they're still trying to they're still doing stuff. The classic vehicles are still there. The Wolverine is still there. The Vamp 1 is still there. It has a lot of the original ingredients. I dig it.
The Hammer is there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a surprise for me as well. I know I'm like harsh on these later issues, but I kind of have this thing with them. I go into them very negatively, in the hopes that something in the book will jump out and impress me or surprise me or become more enjoyable for me. Whereas I think that's the opposite of what everybody else had. Not everybody else, but most people had going into them. I think a lot of people were hoping, hopefully, I hope that this issue is going to be the good one. And I think that a lot of people have been disappointed. So I'm doing it the other way around. I'm just going in disappointed to start with, and then if it does something that I think is cool, like in the art and the vehicles is great. I actually like the cover. Thought the cover was quite good. It's definitely better than issue 300. Got to say
By
that.
the cover, you're referring to the more cartoonish cover. I mean, there are obviously multiple covers, but which one is your favorite?
I like the one that's got the plans on it. It's like the like little notes and doodles and things on it, because I thought
funny.
that was quite interesting. Yeah, it's funny and it's cute, but it's kind of also
lots of Easter eggs.
Yeah.
Cobra Commander has a nice sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's him drawing it.
I was just, I don't know. I think the thing that keeps the thing that I like kind of find is a bit weird about these IDW issues is how inconsistent they are with some of the characters, in the sense of, the Joes are whatever they need them to be, in terms of their personality, but they always make Cobra to be out to be this major idiot, but then Serpentor is kind of a goofball now as well, and Mindbender has also gone kind of goofball, and it's just they've taken a lot of the seriousness of Cobra away, which I actually feel like they should be playing that harder. Like they should be playing the bad guys as bad guys, not as.
I think it's fair to say that it services whatever need the scene has in the moment, because we open with Serpentor being very badass. He's completely humiliated Cobra Commander and assumed control of the troops. I mean, you don't need to have read 298 to realize that. Like, it opens with a splash page, and Serpentor Khan is dragging Cobra Commander by his cape with a smashed faceplate, and he's asking all the troops to swear loyalty to him, and they do. They're just kind of, okay, fine, as long as you keep cutting the checks, Serpentor Khan, we'll shout your name.
Exactly. But I don't know.
Well, this one definitely has a better setup than 300, because I actually understand more of what's going on. Like 300 just opens with Snake Eyes being there. At least here you kind of get a little bit more of like, okay, so that is the original Snake Eyes according to Mindbender, and this is a clone, which is also the original Snake Eyes that he's made. So at least you kind of get an idea of what's going on a bit better here. But I think 298 will hopefully set this up even better. I feel
as we unearth this comic book run layer by layer,
how it goes. I mean, it's like, okay, so how does Storm Shadow show up? He's just there.
Oh,
why are you here, Storm Shadow? Obligations.
Yeah, but then also like Scarlet has the whole, because she's obviously like, how her reaction to seeing Storm Shadow is like, how did you know about this? And he's like, yeah, and then he still has to comment on like, by now you should know about the Ninja Grapevine. And I'm like,
just because why am I here? Because Larry wanted to put me in the story. That's why.
Yeah, I heard it on the ninja phone, the hotline.
She's like, all the ninja moms had a big, group conference call, as they do, and now whatever. Like, that kind of, I mean, that's what they do to try and service a new reader in here, is basically go, oh, new reader, there's this ninja that you probably don't know who the hell this is anyway, but he's here because there's a huge ninja network. Okay, thanks for filling in that blank.
Well, since the Joes disembark all their heavy hardware, see that Cobra's using human shields, and decide, no, let's get back on the plane and leave. We'll just fly around. They're so grateful
fly
that they had Storm Shadow in tow. Like, he is a gigantic walking plot device of like, okay, it's cool. He can handle the action. He can do what needs to be done, and we don't need to get our hands dirty.
I'm gonna be late
But
for
guys,
tea.
in the interests of moving this along to, as I say, dessert, let's do our highs and lows and a rating out of 5, if you please. Troy, we'll start with you, my man.
Wow. I would say 4.
Oh,
I know that's
generous.
Yeah, I'm very
Nice.
generous. I liked it. I would pick up more. It piqued my curiosity.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd probably say the same. It's an interesting issue. It's like, how do they get to this point? Because I mean, at least this issue does lead into the next one. You know, there's kind of like a follow through. You know, they're still set up in the forest. And the cool thing is, there's also things that are implied as well. You're not always shown everything. Like when Dawn is kind of like, so how does that helmet work? You know, there's a callback to when you used to have an explosive in there, and then she's like, well, we could actually use it to escape. And then in the next issue, instead of wasting time showing them escaping, it's just like, you understand, having read this issue, that they blew up the thing and they escaped. So he does kind of have a way of kind of like just pushing things along when it's not necessary to just show everything.
Yeah.
So there is
appreciate
connective
that.
tissue between this one and the next one. So I'm curious to see the previous issue, to see if, you know, how that kind of sets up this one. How does Serpentor Khan take out Cobra Commander? Yeah. So I probably give it like a 3 out of 5. I think it's a decent issue.
There's a bit of nuance to that dialogue, which I've only just gotten, and that's the fact that Cobra Commander is trying to convince Dawn. I mean, they're sharing a cell together, and they're looking for a way to break out, but he's trying to convince her that there is no explosive in the helmet.
Mm-hmm. Because also, if you put too much thought into it, it's actually kind of like a silly mechanism, because it's like, okay, so to kill you, Cobra Commander, all I have to do is just
try and take
touch your helmet, basically, and then you will die. I'll die, but you'll die too. I mean,
now is the implication that they did use the helmet to explode to get out, or is the implication that they didn't? Because when we see them again escaping in issue 300, Cobra Commander is still wearing his helmet. Obviously,
he still has the helmet, but I imagine it's a piece of the helmet. Like, there's an explosive device in there that can be detached.
Okay.
I don't know. It's kind of like batteries in a vehicle. You know, you can't always keep them in there. You got to replace them every now and then.
Some vehicles need to be cracked open. Sonic weld crack. Yeah. Look, it's up to interpretation, because we know that we don't get any satisfying answer to this scene. Did Cobra divulge one of the secrets of his uniform to a known enemy? Interesting.
Well,
anyways,
knows?
I'm looking for your rating, Rob.
I'll give it a 3 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a pretty decent issue overall. Like, I wasn't like rolling my eyes too much. I think the Sean and Wade scene was a bit like, oh god, but the tone generally is pretty on point. You know, he kind of has a certain way of writing the Cobra. He's pretty consistent with that. Although, like, the Technoviper is really chatty, and I feel that's unnecessary. But he needs to be chatty because Dr. Mindbender has to, has to vomit out the plot, essentially.
Exposition Viper. We've just lost Paul. Before he could give his rating. So we'll have to just
find out.
We'll spreadsheet it and get back to you guys.
Hell yeah.
But I'll give it a passing grade, which in my opinion is a 2.5. It's not a good score. It's not a bad score. Look, all of this modern stuff is a tough sell for me, because it's overly convoluted. It's just too complex for its own good. It's bearing the weight of an enormous amount of continuity to this point, but it's not helped by the multiple characters and the multiple plot devices that are introduced immediately. Like if you can think about a fairy tale, there's only one magic bean, and that sets the characters into motion. Here we've got mutant zombie bombs, like a doomsday device. We've got clones being resurrected. We've got multiple chess pieces being moved on the board. I think it lacks a clear vision, which is a dumb thing for me to say because we all know Larry's writing process, and he's drawing a lot of strings to try and close this bag. So it's a bit of an unsatisfying read, and it's all over the place, and it's really boneheaded how the Joes arrive to just leave again. I don't know. I feel like that could have been more satisfactorily played out. However,
But it's yeah.
the inside information we have now is that he already knew he was going to be writing 301 at this point. So if he was planning for those Joes, if he was planning for those Joes to have a gigantic land battle on the island, he had to quickly veer away from that because it would then interfere with the launching of the next continuity. Anyway, I shouldn't let inside information cloud my read of this comic, but it's hard.
But you'd say this is definitely for GI Joe fans. Like it's not difficult for someone outside of GI Joe to actually get into this comic book.
Are you saying that it is or isn't?
And I'm asking you, do you think this? I mean, I feel this is written for GI Joe fans, people who have read tons of comic books. They basically know the characters, they know the history of the characters.
This is absolutely impenetrable to anyone outside of GI Joe. But I don't think GI Joe is trying to attract any new fans. It certainly isn't with this kind of approach. This is steeped in tradition and catering exactly to us diehards. Or is it?
I think it is. I think it definitely is. I mean,
yes, is it successful in doing that?
Well, I don't know. It sounds like you're not terribly enamored with it.
Well, look, I think to win me over, you'd need to just make it a book about cool toys that I'm able to go out to the supermarket and purchase. And since none of those things are likely to ever happen, there are no cool toys. There are no supermarkets. This is a bloody zombie apocalypse. Game over, man. Game over. No, look, I'm just waxing lyrical about a time that's gone and can never come back. So am I to be satisfied with what I'm given anyway as the kind of lip service? No, I don't think I am. I'll go back to reading old school comics, like issue number 2.
Yay,
boys,
nice segue.
shall we? I do try. So Panic at the North Pole was the follow-up to what Larry quite famously says he thought was going to be a one-shot. He was like, I used all my best ideas in issue number 1. So when they said, oh, we're going to have a second issue, I was like, okay. So the focus... Successful. The focus is very much more narrow. There are only 4 Joes on the principal mission. I mean, we do see a few more. Do we even? We don't see any other Joes in this book, period. Not even in the kind of more establishing shots. Unless you count General Flag as a Joe. You probably could. But it's very much focused on Stalker, Snake Eye, Scarlet, and Breaker. Yeah. And it's a bottle episode. It has no continuity that immediately follows on after it. It has continuity years later, even decades later, if you read the new stuff closely. But this in and of itself is like a special mission, and that's its greatest strength. I love it.
Yeah, which is what I mean. But I mean, a lot of the early issues I think are kind of like that. I mean, also you got a taste of this sort of storytelling from the backup story in the first issue. Where there's kind of like not a message, but there is kind of like a little twisty type thing in the tail of the story, where it kind of like wraps it up in a really nice way, satisfying.
Yeah. Well, Marvel didn't know within these first 10 issues how quickly this book would go away. It was a licensed thing, it was linked to a toy line. At any point, Hasbro could have pulled the plug, or the toy sales could have declined. But no, I mean, the writing was on the wall after the first 10 issues. That
it makes for very satisfying reading. You know, you can literally pick up any of these, the first 12 issues, I think, and not have to know anything about G.I. Joe. It's just like you're thrown into a situation, and you just go from there. And the situation in issue 2 is as follows. The Joes have their leave cancelled and shipped out to the Arctic after a remote US research station is found wiped out in what appears to be a commander-style raid. Recon and intelligence retrieval soon turns into a hunt for the man known as Quinn the Eskimo.
Oh, Quinn. Classic
Mhm.
character. Criminally underrepresented in the toy line, if you ask me. I didn't like his first O-ring because his head is too small. Anyways, Troy, would you like to give us some idea of how you received this book initially? Like, was this something that you read back in the day, or was this something that you saw very much after the fact? How soon did you encounter issue number 2?
This definitely, when you sent it to me, seeing it reminded me of it. But I've listened to it through other podcasts. I don't think I have this episode or this one. So it was my first time actually seeing the pictures and putting it all together. And I was familiar with the plot line. And when I was looking at it, I was seeing Quinn and I noticed that his height is 6'10" and he's 260 pounds. And I was like, oh, that's a typo. He's not 6'10". And then I was like seeing some of the art design is like, oh yeah, no, he's 7'10". I mean, he's huge.
He's a giant. Good lord.
Yeah, he's huge. And it's like, oh, okay, all right. Now I see like why everybody really likes him. He's just a beast of a man. He's just is smart and capable. So
In a
it's like,
world
yeah,
without Destro, he gave
Yeah.
G.I. Joe an honorable opponent.
right. And he seemed very honorable. Like even though he's a gun for hire, he's still very much like honorable and whatever. Like they show that in his file card. He never
Yeah,
lies, always
very
fulfills his
very
contractual.
surreptitiously put a file card into an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always fulfills contractual obligations to the
To the
letter.
letter,
Right.
will not divulge any information about former employers or operations for any reasons. Look, that information is very key because it comes in at the
Yep.
end. But absolutely, as I say, in a world without Destro, he became G.I. Joe's more honorable antagonist, and
Yeah.
kind of sets up a new dimension for G.I. Joe because there is no Cobra in this issue.
Right.
It's so unique in that respect. The antagonist is Quinn, and then zooming out from that, I suppose the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, the USSR. But it's, as I say, just a cool bottle episode that I don't have much criticism for because I see it through nostalgia tinted goggles.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are so many contrivances. Like, it's extreme that they're able to track Quinn over this massive expanse, that they are able to be captured, left to die, and then they ATM themselves out of the situation by building an ice boat out of a
Mhm.
broken up plane. Not only are they able to build it in record time, but they're able to make good enough time to beat Quinn, even with his massive head start, and then build a trap before he
Mhm.
arrives. And Quinn, I mean, expert hunter that he is, he doesn't seem to catch wise. Oh no, wait, he does actually see the trap. I mean, it's pretty obvious. They build this kind of explosive setup, this rig on this ice bridge, and expect him to, I mean, in hundreds of miles of tundra, expect him to go under this very spot. I mean, come on, guys. But yeah, look, the action plays out as it should. Everyone makes the correct choices for the book to continue. And it gives rise to one of the most satisfying last shots of all. Quinn has delivered the item to the Russians. He said, I've done everything in my power to stop G.I. Joe, but they're still out there, and they're 5 miles away from their weapons. The pins to their weapons, the firing pins, and you are just 1 mile away from them. So you could deny them the ability to take you on if you were an expert tracker, which you're not, and they are. So they win. We close out on a very determined Snake Eyes. And it's obvious that his weapon is now functional because he has Quinn's weasel skull necklace.
Yeah.
The implication is so clear and so it's sexy, man. It's a good full stop to the issue. We don't have to see what happens next. The obvious violence is G.I. Joe. I don't know. Do you expect G.I. Joe would then take on the Russians? They were told not to be aggressive against foreign nationals.
I think it's too late at that point. I mean, they will definitely, if they're not going to kill them, they're going to get that technology and that intelligence back. Like I think they have to use their own. They can't contact, for Flag to get any adjustments to their mission at this point. They kind of just have to do what they need to do. And yeah, I mean, overall, it's a fantastic issue. I don't think you can get much better than this. As like a standalone issue. It's got cool like philosophical stuff in it with Quinn kind of like, I respect you guys. I don't really want to have to kill you. Yeah, it's so good. I really enjoy it so much.
They set up a trope in this one which doesn't really get touched on in future issues. Well, it does a little bit in the first 10, but then quickly gets kind of brushed aside. I guess stylistically, the writing was finding its feet. But Darren brings it up in the chats. He says, so the beginning of issue 2, anyone else get mask feelings? As in when they pick the mask agents for the episode's mission, you always see them dropping what they were doing at the call-up. And absolutely, I mean, Scarlet's at a martial arts symposium. Stalker's shooting wildlife with his camera. Breaker's about to get a date. He's working on some computers, but the girls in the computer lab are all about him, man. And Snake Eyes is in a sensory deprivation tank, which he spends many hours in. Like, just gives you this idea that Snake Eyes is a bit of a freak. Or do you imagine it helps with his extreme injuries, like to just be in the dark?
But don't they also kind of they're afraid to look at him, so they're playing up the scarred face. So I mean, he's clearly scarred physically and emotionally, so maybe that's why he's spending so much time there. I don't know.
Yeah, he's trying to forget something like really big.
Yeah.
Or not forget it, but he's trying to kind of like get away from it in a way, I guess.
Yeah, I think for issue 2, it does make sense to have these little vignettes of these 4 that are going on a mission. To know, you get a little something about the personality. With Scarlet, just like, okay, we're gonna leave right in the middle of a match, and her opponent's upset, and he's like, all right, well, hang on one moment, I can end this now with one whack.
she's so proficient, she almost shouldn't be competing. Like,
right, exactly.
It's not a challenge to her, actually.
Yeah.
She can KO her opponents in one move. So anyway, it's cool. I cannot knock this, and it is these kind of proto moments in the GI Joe history that really have echoes throughout the history of these characters. Snake Eyes, I suppose we don't revisit his tank too many times beyond this point, but it's definitely part of the tapestry that makes him up, and he needs this like meditation almost. He's a deeply kind of traumatic figure, but also a spiritual figure, and this is how he deals with it. Scarlet is an Stalker likes nature.
Yeah,
Nice
well, they're all little moments that are obviously. I mean, I think Larry is approaching them instinctually. How he's characterizing them. It's like he needed something to do at the start, and he gives them all something to do that feels appropriate to who they are and who we know them as later on, as well as to their file cards as well. So he is building on stuff that he's already established and that has already been established too. And it's slow, but it's nice to have it at least in there. It's like they're not just complete blank canvases. These are characters. These are people.
Should we do some highs and lows, boys? We'll start with you, Troy, and rate it by all means.
Well, I think I'll give it a 4 also. Because I got to save my 5s for the well known issues. Highlights. I like Quinn. I like the introduction of Quinn. Lowlights. Oh gosh, don't know if I have a low light. It just
fine.
seems, yeah, it just seems like so solid. I mean, I like the predicament that they're in. That you know, hey, if you need to get in a gunfight, call us first. We'll get permission. And it's like, wait a minute, that just sounds so convoluted.
Rules of
But you
engagement,
know,
man.
yeah,
Do not fire
and
until fired upon. You're here to
and I
purely
like
observe.
and I like how that was worked into the storyline too. It's like, well, they left the door open, so that means nobody's in there. Let's go.
I think that's a chilling
Yeah.
moment that like also resonates with me. It's
Yeah.
the Joes don't know that the Russians are already dead, but the fact that Quinn enters their hut and then leaves the door open as he exits, that gives the game away. Ah, it's terrific, man.
Yeah.
Scarlet says, "Where'd he come from? And where's he going?" Scarlet answers with, "That's not the $50,000 question, Scarlet." Gosh, I've lost myself. That's not the $50,000 question, Scarlet. What I want to know is, why did he leave the door open?
Yep.
That's an awesome moment, man. Jeepers.
Yeah.
It's
You're right,
awesome.
Stalker.
Quinn,
You don't leave doors open up here unless nobody's home. If nobody's home, we can't initiate contact with the opposition, right? Right. Besides, it's got to be warmer in there than out here. I mean, this lovely like pragmatism about horrible things like death and destruction and loss. Like the Joes have this professional banter amongst themselves. Ah, I love it.
when I was looking at the pictures again, I was seeing Quinn on his Eskimo dogs, and it's like, oh, someone should make a toy of that.
Truth. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people repurposed.
Halfway there.
Well, a lot of people repurposed that Super 7 set.
Yeah.
I'm sure to give Quinn this exact mode of transportation.
Yep.
I guess
Vehicle.
you're either a comics guy or a cartoon guy. But at least Quinn had more appearances. That random blind guy who helps Snake Eyes in Mass Device. I mean, unless you believe that is Zartan. Yeah. I'm going to give it another 4. I think I gave issue 1 a 4, which gives me room to add my real faves. But this is rock solid and absolutely classic and has those lovely moments. Introduction of a timeless character. So I can forgive it all the plot contrivances because it just does the bottle episode thing so well. It's self-contained and has a satisfying conclusion. Gives me all the right feels for a single comic issue read, which is important. Sometimes all you've got time for is to pick up one issue. And so issue 2 delivers. It's something that I think has appreciated as I've matured as well. I don't think it necessarily gives you all the thrills you want as a child. You certainly don't see any cool vehicle action, which would be something that I normally would turn on to. But this has character beats. So important. How about you, Rob?
I don't think I have any lows for this either. I think it's a solid from start to finish. And there's always like cool moments where they take inspiration from Quinn and Quinn, even though they've been inspired by him to like lay traps, he's still better than them. Like there's no way for them to beat him, basically. Like he gets them. But he also finds a way that he can figure out for himself how he can be in a way beaten, you know, by the end of the issue, where he's like, oh no, I left I left the firing pins in a cave somewhere, so the spirits will make sure that the fear does not spread through the world. And he's figured out his own way how to beat himself, which I thought was really cool. And that final
get off for a technicality.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and yeah, I think I'd probably also give it a 4 out of 5. I think leaving a space for the absolute amazing issues is definitely a good way of going forward. Otherwise, yeah, 5 out of 5 would have been my go-to. It's really a lot of fun, this issue. I always love these kind of like isolated issues as well. The Arctic and the snow.
They really found a way to make Quinn the good guy and still be opposition to G.I. Joe. It's that kind of ambiguity that makes this comic book so great. You don't have total black hat villains. Well, a lot of the Cobras are, but you've got characters like Quinn who are opposition to the Joes and yet are still, you're rooting for them. And he absolutely holds all the cards this whole issue long. It's brilliant. It's interesting to have a book about G.I. Joe where the Joes aren't on top of things. They're absolutely underdogs at every turn.
Absolutely. But I
So
mean,
Greg
introduce a
Blanchett
cool.
wants to know if anyone's
Yeah.
a Daredevil fan. Did the Daredevil comic already establish the sensory deprivation tank, or did Larry Hama do it first with Snake Eyes? And I
Oh,
cannot answer
interesting.
that.
I'm not sure.
afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always thought like the sensory deprivation thing was just a concept of the movie, you know, the Ben Affleck film. I mean, not that I've read a ton of Daredevil comics, but at least the classics that I've read don't seem to have it in there.
Look, it's
But I haven't read
either
all of Daredevil, so
it's either going to have happened in the
stand
Frank
corrected.
Miller Daredevil or not. When did Frank Miller take on the writing
He was
chores?
like early 80s, I think. But then also Anne
Mm.
Nocenti, I think it was, came along after him as well and did some fantastic runs on Daredevil as well. So it could have been established in there too. I think it's Anne
'Cause
Nocenti.
Before Frank Miller, correct me if I'm wrong, Daredevil was really just Spider-Man without web shooters and without being able to see. Like there wasn't much more to him other than that.
Yeah,
And
someone
of
had
course
to
the
come
lawyer
along,
and
like Frank Miller, to actually like give him an edge, give him that, that
to
kind of
make
like
him a ninja, to
grindiness.
give him
Yeah.
the background. Maybe that was copped from Snake Eyes, maybe, or maybe just
Possibly.
the
I
ideas
hope
were
someone
in the
who's read
waters
a
at
lot
the
of
time.
Daredevil is going to tell us. Please correct us, inform us.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Shall we wrap up with a little bit of new shit, boys? I'd
Hell
love
yeah.
to get some things off my chest. So,
Oh my goodness.
The local kind of vintage toy store happened upon Micro Machines Travel City. Do you remember these toys, Rob?
I feel like I do.
They are
Oh,
little,
those ones. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Stephen sharing
little
a
grey
fantastic picture.
carry cases.
Right.
that
They folded
contain-
up.
They folded up, and you
Right?
could put the kind of the included Micro
Buildings
Machine.
inside.
Yeah, and the
Yes.
buildings inside.
Yep.
But they are so cool, man. And I found the boxes as well. Classic Micro Machines design. For those of you who don't know, it's the purple and pink and orange and lighter orange. Micro Machines kind of
Like a
banding.
sunset.
It's beautiful. And then the classic 80s trope of like a grid pattern.
Mm.
Because Transformers obviously did it, and Micro Machines did it too. I guess a grid
Mhm.
pattern looks like blueprint
blueprint.
material.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And definitely the box itself does feature lots of cool blueprinty type information.
It's so
I
cool.
do
I had
remember these.
forgotten that the vehicles themselves were like life size on the box.
Ah.
Oh, sorry, the Micro Machines police are after me.
Oh, the popo.
And they have measurements of the vehicles to show you exactly how small they are. Amazing. Of course, you have to be able to know, be au fait with metric, because I think it is in millimeters.
Uh-oh.
Or maybe this is just a European packaging.
For
Maybe it was
Americans.
different. Maybe it was regional.
be.
Maybe they did inches.
Like inches or like half
Inches and
I don't know.
fractions
How do
of
you
inches.
measure small things in America? Is it
You
also
do
inches?
fractions of inches.
Fractions of inches. Oh, God, that's
So,
so confusing.
Rob,
America.
I was I think 37 years young when I learned that 3 3/4 inches isn't just a fun affectation. That's the actual
Yep.
imperial measment of.
Oh, you don't
of a
actually
GI
say
Joe figure.
3.75. You say 3 3/4 inch.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's fantastic.
And these places are cool, man. I love how it feels like the RPG map, basically. Like you're kind of driving along and you go into like the police station or the docks, and then you kind of zoom into like the platforming section inside, or the battle that happens inside. There's so many neat
Nice.
little details, and mixed in with this Micro Machines lot. The seller didn't know this, but he actually sold me 2 Transformers Micromasters battle stations.
No
The
way.
Ironworks and the Firehouse, called Hot House. They didn't come with the Micromaster action figures, but it's just cool to have these transforming playsets alongside the Micro Machines, because they are kind of analogous concepts. I now just need to track down some little Transformers to man it up.
Oh, yeah,
But
there you go.
they were cool. They transformed into little bases.
Did you get any
Fun.
GI Joes, or is it just Micro Machines? Are we just expanding your son's toy collection here?
Well, we went into this toy shop and he was enamored with the Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think it's because he's just discovered the word turtle. And so I walked out with a Michelangelo, which is my first TNMT,
Same.
TNMT, whatever.
TMNT.
I learned that
Turtle.
Michelangelo was the first one that Eastman and Laird actually illustrated. It was the
Oh,
turtle that had nunchucks strapped to his wrists. So yeah, Mikey was first for many of us. So Mikey and Donnie we walked out with, and he's been obsessed ever since. We've been climbing into that cartoon daily now. It's all on YouTube, fortunately, all the classic tunes. So I mean, it's the first time I've been watching a lot of these tunes because I didn't grow up with the paid subscription service that showed Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So I had not seen any of these tunes. I think I had one or two on cassette tape, but that was it. And yes, Rob, I did get some GI Joe stuff. I opened my Sky Striker.
You did.
All right,
I mean,
good for you.
enough comments on that previous episode were like, you just open it, just do it.
Yeah.
You just got to do it. Troy, I take it you've opened yours?
Oh, yes. I have it right behind me. Yes.
Hell yeah.
I did open it. And, I like it. There was some interesting things about it, but I like it a lot. I mean, I think it has, I love the seats. I love the parachute. Maybe a little too, I've heard it was too small. I'm not going to undo that thing. It's packed so perfectly. I'll never get it back in the way it was. So I won't be throwing that out in the air. But I like the seats. I like the detail in the seats. I like the redesigned cockpit. I like the missiles are cool. The way to add the extra missiles to it. It has so many good things. I mean, when you pull the engines out, how it has all the detail inside of it. You can see the fans inside the intakes instead of just hollow holes. There's so many cool things about it. And then there's a few things that's like, oh, head slaps, where it's like, but I think the good way outweighs the bad, I think, in the Sky Striker. My opinions. I'm easy to please. Happy to have O-rings.
I have my local Brisbane buddy to thank for pushing me over the edge. He also got a Sky Striker, and he invited me over to his place, and we just did this kind of head-to-head unboxing. We put on a classic cartoon in the background.
You try to see who can unbox it faster.
Well, it was a nice insurance policy in case any of us had messed up action figure cards. Because we could just swap amongst ourselves. I mean, he wanted to uncard all his figures. I'm a little bit more skeptical. I'm not a fan of the new O-rings. So I don't know. I haven't decided yet to do what to do yet with mine. Right now, they're just sitting in the box. But yeah, it was just a jubilant experience. My buddy's got an immaculate collection, not only of GI Joe, but Lego and Transformers, Gem and the holograms. I mean, why not? But he's trying to convince me that that's his wife's stuff. But I know, buddy. I know. So it was perhaps a good tonic to the roller coaster that it has been my experience with the Sky Striker, and certainly set me on a bit of a high, to the extent that every night when I've put my son to sleep and it's time for daddy to play, I can't wait to get my hands on it. So yes, the story does have a very happy end to it. But if you'd like more detail on this, I encourage everyone listening to this to check out Chaplain Assistance Motorpod. The link is in the description to this podcast, where I jump on with Gary V and we go at it, man. We give a rundown of the good, the bad, and the ugly, our personal experiences with the toy. It's, I'd say, my definitive rundown on this thing, and I can finally now close the chapter on the HasLab Sky Striker. You can stop being punished by me talking about it endlessly on this podcast. But yes, please do check out Chaplain Assistance Motorpod. As I say, link in the description below. And thank you, Gary, for having me on your show, sir.
I think the first thing that I did with the Sky Striker is that I put the reserve fuel tank on underneath it, like like the original one, and I was holding it by that and flying it around. Yeah, immediately.
Does it end badly?
Yeah, it fell right off, and I was like, luckily, I was
No,
like standing next to the couch, so it landed on the couch. I was like, oh, okay,
Huh,
that's why
nice
on
save.
YouTube people are holding it from the back. It's like, now I get it.
Oh, man, I have
And
trouble figuring out where I need to hold the damn thing.
Yeah, hold it from the back. I put Scarlett in mine. She's piloting mine. Her and
Nice.
Wayne. I didn't even open my ace yet. It's like I've got lots of aces, but I don't have any Scarlett like that. And I saw somebody on somewhere they put Wayne's head on Scarlett's body, and it's like, oh,
Okay.
that does kind of make sense. That why does
But does
Ace
it
have the
fit-
spacesuit?
Does it
But
fit
the other
under
person
that
doesn't.
dome? Like, does Wayne Riffle's head or Failsafe's head fit under the clear helmet?
That's a good question. I don't know. I didn't take it out to experience it, but
I don't think it does. I mean,
yeah.
Scarlet's head is fairly shrunken down. It is not the same Scarlet head as the classic, and that's just a compromise to get it underneath that dome. But I'm curious, Troy, how did you sticker your Sky Striker? Did you sticker it like mine? Okay.
Definitely not.
to anyone not watching the YouTube version, this isn't actually my Sky Striker. Someone online has taken a smorgasbord of various Sky Striker stickers and put it all over. He's got
That is fantastic. I love it.
the Air Force roundels on the top of the aircraft. He's also got the GI Joe movie logo on the top. He's got the Cobra Takeover wing swoops. He's got the Snake Eyes timber with the fireball. He's got the Flint skull with the shotguns. It's just got everything.
Yeah.
Why
If you're
not?
only going to earn one of these, why not put all the stickers on? I mean,
well, I'm sure he's
Come
got
on.
plenty left on the sheets, but he definitely went with a goodly number of them. My goodness.
well, he will always know this is his one.
Very unique. I've kept mine clean. I want mine animation
Yeah.
spec because in the animation it
Okay.
was always very. Troy's done
Yes,
the
Troy's
wing,
done.
the striping on the wings. Very tasty.
Yeah.
Very-
Sometimes I kind of regret that. I kind of thought maybe I should have did the brown, the red and orange one, but I don't. I think I went with minimum. I didn't put all the no steps on. It already had a lot of the pre stickers on it, so I kind of really went minimalist and barely put anything on it. And I chose the black with the Sky Striker.
Still looks good.
And yeah. So I figured it's like I got plenty of white ones. Why not the black one? So yeah, I kept it minimalist. And I kind of like how they do have a lot of the pre-stickers already on it. That was pretty cool.
That kind of also dissuades me from stickering up mine because I've got these, paint applications, these stamps. Why then have this mixed medium of like stickers? And stickers stress me out, guys. I think my adult brain can't handle it anymore. I'm so grateful to have details that don't require me to sticker. Like it's factory applied, it's perfect, or is it? There are some problems with the factory applied. Don't. Anyways, check out Captain Assistance Motopod for the full rundown of my critique of the applied campers.
The stickers are almost like paradox of choice. Way too much to choose from, which is nice if you have old Sky Strikers that you want to use, and they're pretty cool. But it's just kind of like that. Which one? It was too many choices.
That's kind of nice, though.
But it was cool to have. I guess it's better more.
Yeah, more is better than less, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful, Rob, that between us, get this, we have the original US release Sky Striker, yours.
Yeah.
You and I both have the 30th anniversary Sky Strikers.
Yeah.
I have an Action Force Sky Striker from 1988, or was it 87? And now the 2023.
So we've got all of them.
Not
all the
quite.
main ones.
Well, yeah, we don't have a Night
Where's
Boomer.
the count?
I'm not about to take out a second mortgage. All right, gents, I think it's time to wrap this up. Paul wants to let us know that issue 2 of GI Joe, a real American hero comic, earns a 2.5 from him because he's an asshole.
$2.99.
Oh, did I get that wrong?
$2.99 gets a 2.5. He has not told us issue 2. I think he wants to be able to elaborate on that more.
Oh, shame.
Yeah.
Well,
but he said well drawn and some good story points for $2.99. So that's why he went middle of the road like Steven.
Yeah. Okay. I read that differently. But anyways, let's wrap this bad boy up, boys. Thank you so much for joining us, Troy.
Hell yeah.
It's been a bumper
pleasure.
episode. I hope the listeners enjoyed it immensely as much as we did enjoying giving it. Yeah, man. Any shout outs you'd like to do on the way out?
And we have lots of work ahead of us, clearly,
True.
to figure out
Absolutely.
what's going on with that MCC.
Oh,
Let's
just
not
the other
keep
day I
people
got a
waiting another
comment.
3 years. 4 years.
Just the other day I got a comment about element extraction, which we worked on previously, Troy. Someone wants to know what happens there. So we got
we kind of left that one too.
Mm-hmm. Look, we'll eventually get around to everything. I don't like leaving plot threads hanging. So yes, even continuity that started in Atlantis Factor. One day we'll
keep
get
Stephen
back
away.
to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, happy birthday, Rob.
Oh, thank you very much, Stephen. And
happy birthday, Rob.
Happy birthday to Tim and Terry Wild as well. I hope you guys have had a great birthday. I had a relaxed birthday. I've now entered my 40s, and
So
I'm
yes,
very
it's all
excited to
about
see where that
kicking
goes.
back now. You're
Hell
an old
yeah,
boy.
dude. I'm going to become even more relaxed now. I'm going to get myself a nice chair from my bedroom, and I'm just going to go sit in it. It's just going to be one of those lazy boys. I can just rock backwards and forwards. It's going to be fantastic.
Well,
That's
speaking of all the
what 40-year-olds
mod
do, right?
cons, are you circling in on that air fryer that you wanted to get?
I'm definitely getting closer to getting it. I'm
got
trying to
to.
find the perfect one. I have to get it. It's just over 40, you don't want to actually make food anymore, do you? You just want to have it made easy for you, and I think that's the easiest, most fantastic way of making food. So I'm gonna do it.
It's the modern age's microwave.
Absolutely. And apparently it's healthier too. I don't know. We'll find out. If I'm still alive in 40 years, I mean, air fryers work then.
It's certainly crispier than a microwave. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've tried.
Thanks as always to the Berg Force, our patrons, and also the guys over on the YouTube membership program. You guys are great. Thank you for keeping the lights running at GI Joburg
Tons of
HQ.
beautiful people. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank
Much
you,
appreciated.
Yeah.
You're amazing.
And thank you very much to the guys joining us in the live chats. I see they're up to 9 of you at one point.
Wow.
Amazing.
Thank you everyone for the birthday wishes. I appreciate it.
Yep. And with that, I think it's time for a hearty yo
Joe.
Oh, by the way, Paul gives issue number 2 4.5.
I told you. You did misread that.
I misread. My bad. Bye.
Wow.